Hello everyone. Well, this video is going to be much different from my usual videos. It's not going to be a shit post, and it's not going to be a normal gameplay video. Today, it's actually going to be a tier list. The tier list is just about how fun all the killers are in the game and where they stand. Now, I've tweeted a lot about Dead by Daylight, but I've never actually made an official video about it, so I decided that I should. The format is just going to be a normal tier list, going through all the killers. I'm going to go from the bottom and then slowly to the top, and let's begin. Now, our first killer on this list, starting from the bottom, is gonna have to be Nightmare. Nightmare is just not fun in any sort of way, winning or losing. He has an extremely good kit, which makes you win a lot of games, and you'd think that would make it be a little bit more fun, but having everything doesn't mean fun. Like, he has good map control, he's good in chase, he has everything, and that's kinda bad. And also, it's remake Freddy, not original Freddy, so pedophile. That's also not good. Second up, Twins. Twins is also not that fun in any way. Much more variety than Nightmare, but still in D tier because it still can get pretty repetitive, and they are also pretty good. They're a pretty good set of killers. Pretty underrated, I'd say, but also still not fun. Now our third killer, starting from the bottom, is going to be Trickster. Trickster's, well, he can be fun at times when the most satisfying main events here and there, but in the end, he's still in D tier because of his inconsistency. Like, the inconsistency is so bad with him, it just makes him stay in D tier. Like, I might have put him in C tier if he had a little bit more of the good moments, but like mainly they're bad moments. But the good moments make him higher than Nightmare and Twins. Moving on to C tier, we have Nemesis, the Nemesis. Nemesis, his power in chase is extremely boring to use. Like, if I wanted to play him, I would just play Huntress. The only reason he isn't in D tier is because of his zombies. His zombies can be pretty fun to just, like, you're in chase, it looks hopeless, a zombie closes the survivor in. Absolutely amazing gameplay. Kinda sucks for the survivor though, but nonetheless, C tier, Nemesis. The next killer after Nemesis is Doctor. The Doctor has a straightforward kit, but it's not really fun to work around with. So, I mean, I guess like the one add-on that makes fake pallets is pretty fun. Well, like they think that they're safe, but no, it's fake. But you know, it kind of gets repetitive. Like, you find survivor, dance with them a little bit, trying to make them insane, and then down them. Yippee, I love Doctor. We have Clown. Clown? I know some people may find this weird for me to rate Clown over Doctor, but I just think Clown is more fun because of his yellow bottles. His purple bottles on his own are they're alright to work with, but there's definitely better killers to run. But with his yellow bottles, he can go speedy. Like, if you want to pick up Survivor and go somewhere far, you can throw a yellow bottle before picking up. If you want to break a pallet and catch up to the Survivor, then put a yellow bottle and kick it. Things like that. It can really help. I think the yellow bottles are underrated. At least from the people I know, they're underrated. You know who you are. But that's about it for Clown. Now we have Myers. Starting at loops is pretty boring. Like, I'm a console player, which console lag kind of interferes with some of the ways I put these tier lists up, or tier list up. Very straightforward, really boring, and like even when you get tier 3, it's often not rewarded enough unless you have like the 30-second extension of the tier 3 add-on, whatever it's called. But you know, there's the occasional devastating power usage to the survivors, which is pretty awesome, really nice to work with, but he's still in C tier because, you know, not rewarding, not too fun when stalking. Next in C tier, we have the Hillbilly. Now, this can be controversial, I guess, but like, I just don't like Hillbilly. You know how I said that console kind of interferes with it? Just like the lag from Hillbilly is kind of horrible. I don't really like working with it, and even when it doesn't lag, it's also kind of not fun. Now, I don't have too much experience in Hillbilly, but like from the experience that I do have, he's not too fun in any sort of way. The map control is pretty nice. Moving around the map is pretty cool. There's like these few, like, you chainsaw for a couple seconds going around the map and boom, survivor in your face and they're down. That's like really amazing. That's why he's like higher in C tier than like Myers and Doctor and all that, just because of those amazing long distance downs. Our next killer in C tier is gonna be Legion. Legion, I used to find Legion pretty fun, but after playing him for a while, he's not too fun, mainly because like the survivors know how to counter him. They just stop staying in the same place. You're only gonna do good with Legion if it's like newbies. It's just not fun to play as Legion these days, but I do have all the perks on him, so that's why I play him every now and then. Because, you know, I guess I was a Legion main for a couple days. I don't know why I did, but let's continue. The killer to wrap up C tier is gonna be Ghostface. When I played Ghostface to get like my data for this tier list, because there's a few killers that I never really played, he's one of them. And of course I played him like for 1 or 2 games before then, but you know, they were alright. I can see the appeal to him. He's definitely more fun than Meyer. He kind of feels a little bit of a douche thing. Not really douchey, but it's because it's the game's fault, but like some exposures to survivors don't really feel rewarding just because you know that you should have been spotted. Now to the next killer. To start off B tier, we have Spirit. I could have put her in C tier for sure, but like she's kind of fun to learn, not right now because of the little glitch he has where you can't hear footsteps, which is kind of a bummer because I like playing her. She's pretty cool to play. And like catching better survivors as Spirit, like people who know how to counter Spirit, are like, they're pretty cool to play against and even more satisfying to catch once you actually get them. Next, we have the Death Slinger for B tier. I like his aesthetic. His aesthetic is one of the best in the game in my opinion. Just like the outlaw Wild West stuff is pretty neat to work around with. Really reminds me of Red Dead. We call him Micah because he looks like Micah, obviously. I mean, wrong hat, but you get the gist. But some hits, or some downs more rather, don't feel rewarding, once again. Because like, just the window ones, or like they're on the other side of the window, but you shoot them and just come closer, and they're not rewarding. And the game kind of cucks you too, because the auto-aim makes you hit the window instead of the actual survivor. That's happened to me a couple of times. It has also saved me a couple of times. It's pretty cool, but it can also be a double-edged sword when you're playing as him. That's it for him, but now we have the Wraith. The Wraith, he's really fun to work around with ever since his buff. Like, he was cool to work with before his buff. I would probably put him on lower B tier before it, but with the extra speed base kit, it's really amazing. And like, I kind of forgot this other thing, that you can't see him if he's too far away from you, like how Nightmare is, which is also really dumb. I don't know why he does that too. That's just another thing about him, and another thing that's good about the Nightmares kit. Next we have the Nurse. The Nurse, I like playing. I'm not too good with the Nurse, but like for the games I've played with her, they're pretty satisfying just because I'm alright at her. I can't really be one of those YouTubers that like makes a video about being a noob in the beginning and trashing on them at the end. I don't know why people like that. It's just not appealing to me. Not one of my types of videos that I'd watch, but to each their own. Now, the reason why I put Nurse in B tier higher than everyone else is just because, like, slugging's really cool, and like the games where you're doing bad can still be fun because like it's a learning experience. Like Nurse has one of the highest skill caps in the game, and just every game's a learning experience. There's lots to learn about Nurse, kind of. It's a debatable thing, but to me, he's really hard. After Nurse, we're gonna have the Plague. Plague's power is extremely unique, as in like the infection, like infecting totems, generators, windows, and all that. Gives you a lot of information. Not many killer powers give you this much information. It's really nice to work around with just because of that. The regenning with the Plague also has like much more value than 3-genning with some other killers because of the way that her power works. If they want to do the gen when it's infected, then they're gonna have to let you know that that they're working on the gen. And by the time that the infection is out on that gen, then the plague would have reset the timer on it. So it's pretty much all 3 gens are infected at the same time. I've had some survivor groups get through that. It's really impressive how they can do it, but they're forced to give you Corrupt Purge, and Corrupt Purge can be devastating at times, or even wiping out whole squads. The games where you wipe out whole squads are absolutely devastating to the survivors, just because it takes some skill to do it, and also it can also be just given to you, which sometimes doesn't feel well, but there's a reason why the plague is rated at this level, because she's fun to play with. You know, Hag should not be this high, so I'm just going to go ahead and insert her in the tier list right here. The reason why that she's worse than Wraith, better than Deathslinger, is just because, like, the strategizing is fun, and, you know, getting a web of traps can really mess with the team. But, you know, the losing that first 2 gens at the beginning of the game can also really hurt you, same as Trapper, but we'll get to Trapper in a minute. Hag can just be really satisfying, not as much as Trapper, like I said, just because Trapper's is lethal. Hag, when you activate one of her traps, it ain't gonna kill you unless she teleports and you're in a vulnerable spot. But, you know, that's Hag. Pretty quick explanation. But anyways, let's continue to where we left off with Plague. After Plague, we have the Trapper. The Trapper is more fun than Plague when it comes to everything, just because his power is lethal. A lethal power that's also a trapping power is really fun to work with. Just getting traps on survivors can be super satisfying, and Basement Trapper can be a little bit of a dick move, but, you know, it's fun for you. At the end of B tier, we have Demogorgon. Demo's one of the more fun killers in this. Just the reason why he's in an A tier is because, like, there's just something about him that's kind of off-putting a little bit. Not his aesthetic, just kind of something of his gameplay that kind of throws it off a little bit. I can't put my finger on it, just that's why he's not in A tier. His portals are really unique in this game, as you could place them anywhere in the map. It can really set up for devastating. I love using that word, as you can tell. Basement plays. It can really hurt a team, especially with Make Your Choice and perhaps Territorial Pursuit. Besides that, that's all I have to say about him. Let's move on to A tier. To start off B tier, we have Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head, his looping is probably the best in the game. One of the best in the game, just because the hits through walls can make it extremely satisfying. Perks like I'm all ears in that can just make it amazing. Also, using the cages can be really fun to work with. Pyramid Head is kind of just a well-rounded killer in all aspects. Maybe not map control, but I guess the Trail of Tears that he leaves behind, or Trail of Torment, whatever you want to call it, is just, I guess that's his map control. I mean, it's like, because you do have to crouch through it or go around it, so that's what he had. That's really all I have to say about Pyramid Head. After Pyramid Head, we're gonna have Booba. Bubba is just really fun. I've once had the I'm not sure if I have the clip anymore, but I had this one time where I downed every single survivor in one sweep, or would have been one sweep if I didn't mess up the chainsaw sweep, like the charges of it. I kind of used one charge a little bit too fast and lost a lot of distance, but I still got that 4th survivor, so it might as well have been a 4th sweep, and I'm pretty sure it's either they all DC'd or 3 of them DC'd, and I got the hook on the last one. Still really cool. That was a really fun experience to work with him. I play him a lot. He was one of my mains at one point, but I don't play him much anymore, but I still play him to the point where he's in A tier. While I was learning him though, just bumping into everything can become really frustrating during his learning experience with him. It's kind of why he isn't in S tier, just because his learning experience is not too well. That's enough for Bubba, but let's just get on to the killer that will finish off A tier, and you kind of wouldn't expect me to put her so high up, and that's Pig. Pig to me is just an underrated killer. Now, not too underrated, because I can see why people can find her boring, just because most of the time the bear traps don't do too much, and the crouch power can sometimes get extremely repetitive in that manner, but, you know, still pretty underrated killer. The beginning of the matches for Pig can be either really good or really not good, because grabs, gen grabs at the beginning of the games can also go really good for challenges and just feel really satisfying. Can get you an early reverse bear trap before anyone can even get a gen to half. Franklin's can also make a really good combo with the pig, as it could make some survivors waste time and in very rare cases just be the thing that you needed to get a head pop. Oni's power is probably one of the most balanced in the game. It's not just like Trapper or Hag, but the early game can be extremely bad for him just because it makes him an M1 killer in every aspect. At least in every aspect, if it weren't for the fact that collecting orbs slows you down and another really good balancing thing on behavior's end. He's really where he should be, as he's good and he's fun. He is probably the most aesthetically pleasing in the game. Just the way dashing works and that I can go into one of his M2s is just, or not M2, but special M1 is just, that's the reason why I play him. It's amazing. Now, second and first place are going to be Blight and Huntress respectively. Starting off with Blight, he was one of the killers that I had to play to get data for this tier list, and like, he really made me want to play the game. Now when I first started like not uploading, Dead by Daylight is what I went to and like Red Dead and that, and Dead by Daylight I played for like 2-3 months straight. You can ask the people that I know. That was all I played. Even over Red Dead, and Red Dead's much better than Dead by Daylight, but that's not the topic right now. Blight really wanted me to play Killer mode, because at the time, I was really just playing Survivor with just a little bit of Killer at the end, when I used to play a lot of Killer and a Survivor at the end. The way his power works is probably another one of the most balanced in the game. Now, the downsides are just that the power also doesn't want to work at a lot of times, especially at Ormond, outside of the main building where there's lots of snow dumps. It can make for some good plays with slides and all that, but it can also be extremely frustrating. Now in first place, Huntress. Huntress is definitely one of my mains, and that's why she's so high in the tier list. Just the simplicity and amazement that her power gives me is just the best in the game. That's really all I can say about it. It's just getting long shots is one of the best things in the game. Looping is just one of the best things in the game for her. He's just good in all spots because of her ranged attacks, and it could provide some map control if you really know her trajectory in the air. Could go for really nice long shots. I'm not the best with Huntress, but I'm certainly am not bad with Huntress, that's for sure. How do you like this tier list? Do you agree with it? Do you have some problems with it? Tell me in the comments below. And I won't tell you anything else besides to just support the channel if you want to in any way that you want to. And I will see you in a couple months from now, because God knows when will be the next time that I upload. Goodbye.